Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a really granular look at the nerve center of any large-scale combat operation, the division command post. We're trying to move past the pure theory and get into the stark realities of how these high-level headquarters have to organize, operate, and maybe most importantly, survive when they're up against a pure-level threat.
And that environment has just changed so fundamentally. I mean, for centuries, the commander's headquarters has always been a target, of course.
Of course.
But modern technology, you're talking about long-range precision fires, ubiquitous unmanned aircraft, sophisticated electronic warfare. It's completely transformed the command post from just a high-value target into an extremely vulnerable one.
So the question isn't if you'll be targeted anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's when and how quickly can you either move or hide.
That is the central tension we are diving into. This critical need for deep coordination across a massive battlefield versus the absolute necessity of concealment and, well, mobility.
Right.
So our mission today is to really analyze those core concepts, the organizational structure, and the critical survivability techniques a division needs to maintain mission command in this kind of contested environment.
And we have a really superb stack of sources to help us navigate that duality. We're going to start with the foundational doctrine, which is Army Techniques Publication 680.5, Command Post Organization and Operations.
Okay, that's the 2017 version.
That's the one. It really sets the stage for how these headquarters are, designed to operate on paper.
But doctrine alone doesn't win the modern fight.
No.
Which is why we're integrating these hard-won, really contemporary lessons from the battlefield. We're drawing pretty extensively on a Center for Army Lessons Learned publication called Lessons Learned from the Ukrainian Territorial Defense Forces, Command Post Survivability.
And that was very recent, February 2024. It gives you this brutal, real-time look at the tactics being used right now against a peer threat.
And then finally, we're going to examine some forward-thinking analysis from an article, Restructuring the Division Command Post in Large-Scale Ground Combat.
And that piece is great because it synthesizes the vulnerability problem with the complexity problem. And it proposes structural changes that, frankly, move beyond the current doctrine to achieve mission success.
So our goal for you, the listener, is to really explore this evolution. We're going to start with how a division headquarters is doctrinally organized, with its cells and its battle rhythm.
And then we detail how it has to fundamentally adapt that command and control structure.
Right, down to what kind of buildings they can even use or where they have to hide their Wi-Fi. It's all about surviving an adversary that is actively hunting them 24/7.
It really is. It's a study in management discipline colliding with just sheer ingenuity.
Okay, let's start with that doctrinal foundation. Let's unpack the book line from Army Techniques Publication 6.0.5.
All right, so when you look at the official documents, a command post has a very simple definition. It's a unit headquarters where the commander and the staff perform their activities during operations.
That sounds deceptively simple.
It is, but it represents the functional and the physical hub of what we call mission command.
All right, so it's not just a tent or some building. It's the place where the whole mission command system, the people, the tech, the procedures, it all comes together to make decisions.
Exactly.
So what are the core functions that define what's supposed to be happening inside that headquarters, whether we're talking a division or, say, a battalion?
Well, the doctrine outlines 6 critical, and they're very overlapping, functions. The first pair really addresses the data challenge, conducting knowledge management and information management.
Okay, knowledge versus information. Break that down.
So knowledge management is all about the flow of intellectual capital. The goal is to enable a shared understanding among the staff to, enhance their decision-making. It's the human element.
And information management is the more technical side of that coin.
Precisely. Information management is the science of using the technology, the systems, the procedures to collect, process, store, display, and protect all of that raw data.
I see.
So think of it this way. Knowledge management ensures the staff understands the context, the so what. Information management just makes sure the data pipes in the servers work and are secure.
That makes a lot of sense. You can have the best tech in the world, the best information management, but if the staff isn't sharing insights, the knowledge management part, you fail.
You fail.
And the goal of that whole process, that whole data to knowledge pipeline, is to achieve the third function, which is building and maintaining situational understanding.
And that is absolutely crucial. Situational understanding is what you get when you apply analysis and judgment to relevant information. It's not a passive thing.
It's an active process.
A very active process.
Yeah.
The staff is constantly generating and sharing knowledge products, things like running estimates or the common operational picture, all to establish context.
So what's a running estimate exactly?
A running estimate is a staff officer's continuous analysis of their specific area, their warfighting function, relative to the entire operation. So the intel officer has one, the logistics officer has one, and so on.
Okay, so without that solid situational understanding across the whole staff, any planning or execution is basically just blind.
That's a blind effort. It leads to a terrible allocation of forces.
Okay, so once the staff understands the situation, they have a plan, they move into the active stages. That would be controlling and assessing operations, the next two functions. How do you draw a line between those two inside a command post?
Well, control is the active regulation of forces and functions to accomplish the mission according to the commander's intent. The doctrine actually recognizes two forms of control.
Which are?
Procedural control and positive control. Procedural control, it relies on established orders, policies, graphical control measures.
Things like phase lines or boundaries on a map?
Exactly. It's designed to manage the flow of operations autonomously.
That sounds like setting the rules of the road and then just letting your subordinates drive.
That's a perfect analogy. And positive control, on the other hand, is when commanders have to actively direct subordinates in close detail. They might have to override that procedural control when it's necessary.
Usually through a direct radio call or a quick order.
Right, a detailed fragmentary order. The staff has to balance the speed you get from procedural control with the precision you get from positive control.
Okay, so that's control. What about assessment?
Assessment, the fifth function, is the continuous determination of progress. The staff is constantly comparing what they thought would happen with what is actually happening.
They're using metrics for that, I assume?
Yes, things called measures of effectiveness and measures of performance. It's all about gauging how effective your force employment is. It's the continuous feedback loop that tells the commander if the plan is working or not.
And the final function sort of wraps up the command post's outward focus.
Right. Function 6 is coordinating with internal and external organizations. I mean, no unit operates in a vacuum.
No.
So coordination is absolutely essential for synchronization. You're working with higher headquarters, subordinate units, adjacent units, and what are called unified action partners.
So that could be civilian agencies or, allied military forces?
Exactly. And this ensures everyone has a shared understanding, you avoid duplicating effort, and you make sure everyone understands the commander's intent for the next, say, 72 to 120 hours.
So that gives us the what to do. Let's look at the physical organization. Doctrine calls for an echelon structure, and for a division headquarters, you're typically resourced for 3 main command nodes.
That's right. The divisional echelon usually had 3 key control centers: the main command post, the tactical command post, and the mobile command group.
Let's start with the big one, the main command post.
The main command post is the principal facility. It houses the majority of the staff, and its job is, well, comprehensive. It's controlling current operations, conducting detailed analysis, and planning future operations, all of it.
And traditionally, this was the biggest, most complex node. A massive collection of tents, antennas, vehicles.
A huge signature.
Which, as we'll get into, that size is now a critical vulnerability.
Absolutely. The main command post historically had all the functional cells. It was the primary mission command facility. Then you have the more agile, forward element.
Like the tactical command post.
Right, the tactical command post. And it's often misunderstood. It's not just a smaller main command post.
So how is it tailored then?
It's tailored to control specific portions of an operation for a limited time. It's a forward extension of the main. So, for example, if the division needs to conduct a complex river crossing or a big air assault, the commander might send the tactical command post forward with just the right mix of maneuver, fires, and intelligence staff needed to execute that one decisive action. It's highly mobile and temporarily task organized.
And then finally, you have the smallest, most personal, and most maneuverable node, the mobile command group.
The mobile command group is literally the commander's highly mobile command post. It has ground and air components. It's equipped with robust, secure information systems.
Its whole purpose is to get the commander to the decisive point on the battlefield.
Exactly. So they can personally assess the situation, make timely decisions, and influence the fight through their personal presence, all while staying connected to the rest of the force. The commander's ability to move without losing that capability is just paramount.
Before we dig into the internal staff structure of the division, let's briefly touch on the command posts you find at lower echelons, because they serve a really different but indispensable purpose. It's more about logistics.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it shows the complexity of the sustainment warfighting function. When you look down at, say, combined arms and infantry battalions, Doctrine gives them command posts dedicated entirely to the support area.
These are the Combat Trains Command Post and the Field Trains Command Post?
Exactly. The Combat Trains Command Post, that one's led by the logistics staff officer, and it controls the immediate administrative and logistical support.
So what does immediate support mean in this context?
Think fuel, ammunition, water, medical evacuation for the units that are actively in the close fight. The Combat Trains Command Post is usually located right with the battalion's forward support company.
So they're monitoring the battle, coordinating resupply, watching the supply routes.
Right. Their job is defined by urgency and, frankly, high-risk exposure.
And the Field Trains Command Post is further back, handling more of the administrative logistics.
Exactly. The Field Trains Command Post is usually located back in the brigade support area. It's focused on logistics further to the rear. Things like coordinating the unit's supply requests, personnel admin, managing long-term maintenance.
So that's led by the headquarters company commander.
It is, and it's the necessary interface between that fighting unit and the bigger, more robust supply systems of the brigade. Without the Field Trains Command Post queuing everything up, the Combat Trains Command Post would just quickly fail.
It really shows that command post operations are not just about maneuvering troops. It's about managing this whole ecosystem that keeps the force fighting.
That's a great way to put it, an ecosystem.
Okay, so now let's move inside that division command post and focus on the human element. The staff has to be organized not just by their specialty, but in a way that manages the complexity of the battlefield across time.
Right, and staffs are organized into two key types of cells to do that. First, you have the functional cells, which are organized by the specific warfighting function they perform.
And second,
you have the integrating cells, and they are the ones that synchronize all those functions across time, according to 3 different planning horizons.
okay, let's start with the functional cells. These align directly with the core warfighting functions: intelligence, movement and maneuver, fires, protection, and sustainment.
Correct. Each one groups the personnel and the equipment by that specific function. So the intelligence cell, for instance, coordinates everything required to understand the enemy, the terrain, the weather. They produce that intelligence running estimate we talked about.
And at the division level, that's a big job. They probably have liaisons from air and space components.
They do. And the key here is that each of these cells provides that deep technical expertise in their specific field.
I want to focus on the complexity of 2 of these cells because they seem to involve integrating so many different elements: the fire cell and the protection cell.
Good choices. The fire cell is absolutely crucial in modern operations, especially with the proliferation of long-range precision fires. They coordinate, plan, integrate, and synchronize the employment and assessment of all fires.
Lethal and non-lethal.
Lethal and non-lethal in support of operations.
That sounds like so much more than just firing artillery.
Oh, it is. They are the analytical hub for shaping the entire battle space. They recommend targeting guidance to the commander, which includes selecting high payoff targets. And they coordinate the entire find, fix, track, target, engage, and assess process.
And they have to work constantly with the intelligence cell to make sure targets are valid, and with the maneuver cell to make sure fires are safe and synchronized with troop movements.
All day, every day. It's a constant coordination effort.
Now, the protection cell. Their job is to make sure the fighting force actually survives long enough to do the mission.
And that's an extremely broad mandate. The protection cell integrates, coordinates, and synchronizes all protection tasks. It's about preserving combat power against all threats and all hazards.
So who makes up this cell? What kind of expertise are we talking about?
You're pulling together a huge range of specialists. You've got safety officers, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense experts, engineers for countermobility and survivability, explosive ordnance disposal teams, personnel recovery teams, and the provost marshal, which is the military police.
Wow. That's a remarkable level of cross-functional integration just to handle defense. It shows how complicated the staff organization is before you even get to planning.
And that very complexity brings us to the integrating cells. The functional cells provide the technical how and what, but the integrating cells provide the when and where.
They synchronize the warfighting functions across time, making sure the fire cell's target for tomorrow aligns with the maneuver cell's movement plan for the day after.
Precisely. And this is defined by 3 distinct planning horizons at the division and higher echelons: short range, mid-range, and long range.
Okay, let's break down the role of each cell, starting with the short-range fight, the immediate execution.
That's the domain of the current operations integrating cell, or just current operations. They are the focal point for controlling execution. They focus on the short-range planning horizon,
Which is typically less than 24 hours out, the what-is phase.
the what-is phase. They monitor, evaluate, direct, and control the execution of orders as they are happening.
They're basically the air traffic controllers.
That's a perfect description. They maintain the common operational picture, they manage shift changes, and they run the operations synchronization meeting. They have to have absolute clarity on the current battle.
And they're the ones making immediate adjustments through fragmentary orders when things, inevitably go sideways.
Exactly. This cell needs people who thrive in high-stress, immediate decision environments.
Okay, moving a little further out, we have the bridge between execution and long-term strategy. That's the future operations cell.
The future operations cell is focused on the mid-range planning horizon, generally 24 to 120 hours out, the what-if phase.
So their role is to anticipate, refine, and modify.
Right. They're watching current operations for any implications that might affect future phases. They're tasked with developing branch plans,
Contingency plans.
contingency plans, for anticipated changes in the enemy or friendly situation. They prepare the orders needed to implement those changes. They're the vital bridge that makes sure the plan cell's vision for the future stays relevant while current operations manages the present crisis.
So if the current operations cell is the site foreman managing today's immediate problems, future operations is the project manager looking at the next week and handling unexpected delays.
That's a perfect analogy. And if they're the project managers, then the plan cell handles the master blueprint.
They handle the long-range planning horizon, so beyond 96 hours. The what next phase.
The what next? Their job is the big picture. Developing the initial operation order, preparing for follow-on operations, which are called sequels, and managing deception planning. They are the architects, laying the foundation for operations that might not even start for days or weeks.
I can imagine the friction between those 3 cells must be immense, especially when a battle is going badly. Current ops is desperate for resources now.
Right. And future ops needs to protect reserve forces for the next 72 hours. And the plan cell is trying to design an offensive that needs a commitment 4 days from now.
So that friction must be managed somehow.
Friction is actually intentional. It's by design. The separation ensures that the division commander is not entirely consumed by the immediate close fight.
So the plan cell is insulated.
It has to be. They have to be insulated from the minute-to-minute chaos that current operations is managing. They have to be given the intellectual space and the time to think 5 days ahead. That ensures the division is always set up for the next fight, not to survive in the current one.
Beyond these enduring cells, the staff also needs temporary groups to integrate efforts on specific issues, which brings us to boards and working groups. I hear these terms used interchangeably, but the doctrine draws a very specific line.
It does, and the line is all about authority. That is the key distinction. These temporary groups are set up to coordinate action and solve problems that span multiple cells, like targeting or sustainment.
Okay, so define the power dynamic for us. What is a board?
A board is a group of predetermined staff representatives who have delegated decision authority for a specific purpose. They are chaired by the commander or a senior leader.
So, for example, the targeting board.
The targeting board is a perfect example. They review the potential target list, and they decide which targets are approved for attack, which are shifted, or which are added. Because they have that delegated authority, their outputs, the approved target lists, become binding directives.
Okay, so conversely, working groups focus entirely on analysis and recommendations, but they have no power to mandate action.
Exactly. A working group is a group of staff reps who meet to provide analysis, coordination, and recommendations. They do not have decision authority.
So their job is to synchronize, to make sure everyone is talking to each other.
Right. Like the sustainment working group ensures that movement, medical, and supply are all on the same page about next week's needs. Their outputs become inputs for a decision-making board or for the commander. They solve problems, package solutions, and submit them for approval.
And all of these moving parts, the cells, the boards, the working groups, they need to be coordinated in time, which leads us to the battle rhythm.
The battle rhythm is the command post's operational heartbeat. It's the deliberate, daily cycle of activities that's intended to synchronize current and future operations. It provides consistency and allows staff to prepare their information products for critical decision points.
And it ensures the commander actually gets some rest.
Hopefully, yes.
So the key meetings are the mechanism for this rhythm. What's the single most critical meeting for just ensuring basic continuity?
That would be the shift change briefing. It's typically every 12 hours, and its purpose is non-negotiable. Ensure uninterrupted operations and shared understanding.
It's a formal handoff.
A very formal exchange of information. The status of the unit, significant activities from the last shift, and any significant events anticipated for the next one. The outgoing shift has to ensure the incoming shift is fully aware of every ongoing crisis and every decision made.
It's the primary defense against chaos.
It really is.
Then you have the meetings where the commander gets updates and issues guidance.
Right. You have the Battle Update Briefing, or BUB, and the Commander's Update Briefing, the CUB. The Battle Update Briefing is mostly an internal staff update to the commander on the progress of current ops. It's very staff-focused.
And the commander's update briefing is the more formal, comprehensive one.
Correct. The CUB includes subordinate commanders, usually participating via secure video or voice, and they provide their assessment of current operations directly to the division commander.
So this allows the commander to get that unfiltered feedback from the units in contact.
Exactly. To ask critical questions, offer real-time adjustments to guidance, maybe change boundaries or retask a recon element. Both of these briefings are focused on that short-range fight, the execution phase.
And finally, where does the daily grind of detailed synchronization actually happen?
That happens in the operations synchronization meeting. This is often chaired by the assistant division commander for maneuver, and its purpose is extremely precise: to synchronize current operations for the short-range horizon.
So they're identifying changes, figuring out what needs to be adjusted,
and developing the necessary fragmentary orders to make it happen. And if the commander isn't present, the chair is empowered to make tactical decisions to keep things synchronized within the commander's intent. It maintains the pace of the battle.
Okay, so we've established that doctrinally, the division command post is this sophisticated, highly coordinated machine.
It is.
But the sources, especially that restructuring article, they really emphasize that this whole coordination model is fatally flawed if the command post can't survive. The traditional main command post is just too big, too static, and way too electronically loud.
And that is the harsh reality. The threat landscape today is defined by the integration of two factors: the adversary's long-range lethality and their multi-domain ability to see and find targets.
So what does that look like?
A peer adversary employs what's called an integrated fires command. That means they're using theater ballistic missiles, long-range cruise missiles, rocket artillery, and traditional cannon artillery, all in a coordinated way.
And they find the targets for those systems using these unprecedented surveillance capabilities.
Exactly. That lethality is paired with multi-domain reconnaissance and surveillance, primarily using sophisticated unmanned aircraft systems, both armed and unarmed. These things are constantly looking for the telltale signs of a headquarters.
Concentrated vehicles, repetitive radio emissions, large physical footprints.
All of it.
It sounds like the command post isn't just a target anymore. It's a high-priority, high-payoff target that the enemy is actively hunting with technology.
It is. It's systems-based targeting. The adversary wants to disrupt or destroy the entire mission command system, not just kill a few people. If they detect the command post's electronic signature, they can hit it with munitions or electronic attack within minutes.
So the core lesson, repeated across all the sources, is that mobility is survivability.
That's it. Protection isn't found in armor or concrete anymore. It's found in movement. It comes from smaller footprints, frequent moves, rapid displacement, electronic discipline, dispersion, and camouflage.
So the Army responded to this vulnerability. They officially modified the command post organization for division and corps headquarters.
They did. The Doctrine, specifically in Appendix E of that Army Techniques publication, outlines a new structure. It's designed to reduce the physical footprint in the area of operations.
And this is a move toward a more distributed headquarters, right?
Yeah.
Relying on virtual collaboration.
That's the idea. The headquarters is converted to operate from two distinct command posts: the forward command post and the home station command post.
And the forward command post is the element that's actually, fighting the battle.
It's the operational face of the division. The forward command post is the node for controlling current and future operations within the area of operations. It's responsible for the day-to-day control, synchronizing targeting, directing the fight.
And because it's forward, it has to be extremely agile and survivable.
Its physical and electronic signature have to be minimal.
So if the forward command post is fighting, the home station command post is supporting from thousands of miles away. How does that remote structure even work? Who is stationed there?
Well, the home station command post operates from a facility called the Home Station Mission Command Center. It's back at the division's home garrison.
Okay.
And that center has the full suite of information systems and networks. Its focus is on long-term planning, deep operational analysis, and the critical coordination of strategic sustainment activities.
So a lot of the specialized staff who need the most time and space for analysis, the long-range planners, the deep intel analysts, the strategic logistics people, they're all back in the U.S.
That is the concept. The majority of the planned cell, deep intelligence cell, strategic sustainment, they all provide support from the home station command post. They conduct the deliberate planning for new phases and transitions, the sequels.
And that reliance on virtual collaboration is what enhances survivability forward. You're dramatically reducing the footprint of the forward command post.
That's the goal.
But I have to imagine that creates just immense friction. How does a plan cell sitting thousands of miles away truly understand the fog of war that the forward command post is experiencing? What about time zones, information lag?
And that is the central management challenge of this new structure. It relies on high-fidelity, redundant communication networks, and just rigid information management procedures.
The discipline has to be incredible.
It does. The forward command post has to maintain rigorous discipline in updating the common operational picture and sending highly contextualized running estimates back to the home station command post. If they get busy, the first thing to suffer is that reporting discipline.
And then the home station command post's planning is based on outdated or incomplete information.
Exactly. It requires a whole new level of trust and procedural rigor across that geographic separation.
And that challenge only gets bigger when we look at the observations from that restructuring article, which used the 4th Infantry Division's experience in an exercise.
Warfighter exercise.
Right. They found that even this official 2-node structure, the forward and home station, it just wasn't enough to manage the complexity of large-scale combat, which can span over 100 kilometers in depth.
They realized that managing the deep fight, the close fight, and the rear sustainment fight all at the same time in this highly fluid, highly lethal environment, it required more than 2 nodes. The division needed 3 separate and enduring command nodes, geographically dispersed.
And that solved both the survivability problem and what they called the commander consumption problem.
Right.
So what were these 3 enduring nodes? How did they divide the battlefield?
Well, they kept the main command post, but they reduced its personnel and focused it entirely on the deep fight.
And the deep fight was defined as what?
Operations beyond 24 hours, geographically located beyond the coordinated fire line. The division commander resided there, and they were focused specifically on setting conditions for future engagements, 96 to 120 hours out.
So their job was coordinating attacks against enemy air defenses, long-range fires, paving the way for future movement.
That's it.
So who was handling the immediate, intense engagements?
That responsibility was delegated entirely to the tactical command post. This node was given the enduring responsibility for controlling the close fight.
The area between the coordinated fire line and the brigade's rear boundaries.
Exactly. It was led by the Deputy Commanding General for Maneuver. It had the capacity to clear fires, control maneuver, refine battle positions. By making this node permanent, they freed up the main command post from being dragged into the minute-by-minute crises of the forward battle.
And the 3rd and final node covered that entire sustainment lifeline.
That was the support area command post. It was led by the Deputy Commanding General for support, and it was responsible for sustaining the division and controlling the entire division rear area.
And that rear area is no longer a safe sanctuary?
Not at all. It's a contested zone. It's vulnerable to deep strikes, special operations forces, unmanned aircraft. So that command post needed its own fire and maneuver control capability.
The strategic genius here is pretty clear. This geographic separation and delegation of responsibility, deep, close, and sustainment, it's a survivability measure, but it's also a functional measure.
It is.
It prevents the commander from being totally consumed by the immediate close fight, which is the historical tendency in these intense operations.
Absolutely. The decision to physically separate and delegate the close fight to one general and the rear fight to another is critical. It allows the main command post to look 4 or 5 days into the future. It enables proactive planning, not reactive problem solving. And the decentralization dramatically increases dispersion, making the entire network exponentially harder for the enemy to target and destroy.
So this organizational structure is really only as good as the discipline that executes it. Whether you're a 2-node or a 3-node construct, your effectiveness still relies on absolute operational discipline, documented in command post standard operating procedures.
The SOPs are the lifeblood of continuity. They have to be comprehensive, constantly trained, and they have to address every aspect of operations. Duties of key personnel, like the battle captain, and critically, how continuous operations are sustained through work shifts.
And maintaining a 24-hour operation under fire, that's one of the biggest human resource challenges. The doctrine talks about 3 different shift methods, each with some serious trade-offs.
The simplest, but maybe the most precarious, is the standard shift. It evenly divides personnel into 2 12-hour shifts.
The advantage is simplicity.
Simplicity, predictability. The disadvantage, though, is huge. You have an inevitable break in continuity during shift change, and there's a high risk that key staff are asleep or unavailable when a major crisis hits. Plus, 12-hour shifts are just immensely taxing over time.
Then you have methods designed for more flexibility to anticipate peaks in activity.
Right, that's the heavy or light shift. This method puts the majority of personnel, the heavy shift on duty, when you anticipate significant activity like a major attack at night.
And the light shift is basically on call.
Right. It's flexible, and it ensures key people are available during decisive periods, but it severely disrupts sleep plans and can lead to serious burnout among that core heavy shift.
And the most complex option, the one designed specifically to prevent any break in the information chain.
That's the staggered shift. This method staggers the times that personnel come on and off duty, often with overlapping shifts of 4 to 6 hours.
So that overlap ensures the new shift gets a really comprehensive, uninterrupted turnover from the outgoing shift.
That's the whole point. It's designed to preclude a break in continuity and maintain the highest possible shared understanding. But the logistical burden of managing meals, rest, and schedules for a staggered force is immense. It adds a lot of complexity.
Beyond just daily procedure, the staff has to be trained to react instantly to a crisis, which brings us to command post battle drills.
Right, these are trained responses designed to completely bypass the deliberate decision-making cycle.
They're collective, rehearsed actions executed rapidly when a specific trigger is initiated. They prevent paralysis when the command post itself comes under attack.
The doctrine identifies triggers from immediate threats, like an indirect fire attack, enemy air or ground attack, or even critical events happening away from the command post, like a mass casualty incident.
So, for example, an indirect fire attack drill. What happens instantly?
The drill defines who sounds the alarm, where the hardened shelter is, who maintains communications, usually the battle captain and a minimum crew, who executes counterfire, and who starts the process to prepare to move.
The key is that personnel know their job without needing to ask permission.
It's embedded. It's rehearsed until it's muscle memory under stress.
The command post also has to maintain a layered defense. The doctrine mandates a framework for security and defense in depth to protect the physical site.
Right. It requires a defense in depth, which consists of 3 security areas. The outer security area provides early warning and denies enemy recon. It extends out to the limits of your direct fire weapon.
And that's patrolled
by mobile or on-foot security, hopefully spotting enemy recon before they get close enough to report the headquarters location.
And then, inside that is the perimeter zone where the fighting would happen.
That's the perimeter zone. It has the command post perimeter itself, observation posts, and fighting positions. And finally, you have the inner security area, which is inside the perimeter. You use interior barriers around critical assets, the power generators, the comms node, to slow down anyone who gets through.
This foundational discipline sets the stage, but the most, I think, actionable and surprising advice comes from that Center for Army Lessons Learned report, which captures these real-world survivability tactics.
Yes, these are the modern, practical lessons learned in an environment that is just saturated with unmanned aircraft and electronic warfare.
The first lesson focuses heavily on command post location tactics, how to hide from detection and indirect fire.
And the report strongly advises locating command posts in basements of high-rise buildings in cities or villages.
Basements. Why basements specifically?
Because an underground facility naturally provides the most robust protection from detection, both visual and electronic, and it offers structural protection from indirect fire. It's essentially a natural Faraday cage against certain types of detection,
I was fascinated by the required distance from the front line. It really speaks to the adversary's targeting range.
It does. Ukrainian command posts are usually located about 2 to 5 kilometers from the front line. That's close enough to maintain line-of-sight communications and influence the battle, but far enough to avoid immediate small arms and mortar fire.
And crucially, the combat train's command post, the logistics hub, is located significantly further back, about 10 kilometers.
Right, and the reason for that separation is simple. The combat train's command post is easier to detect because of all the logistical traffic trucks moving fuel, ammo, water.
So by separating the two, the enemy might target the logistical hub, but the main command post stays hidden. You sacrifice the one to protect the other.
You do.
And there are these critical warnings about avoiding buildings that are, well, public knowledge.
You have to avoid using readily recognized administrative structures. So, municipal buildings, schools, large corporate headquarters. The logic is simple. Most of these buildings are already plotted on publicly available online maps.
So it gives enemy targeting analysts an immediate list of potential high-value locations to go look at. If you can find it online, it's compromised.
Immediately.
The most challenging lessons relate to communication discipline, especially with digital emissions. What are the non-negotiables for personnel inside the command post?
Digital discipline is absolute. Radio frequency and Wi-Fi emissions are instant high-payoff target locators. The rules are harsh.
Like what?
Prohibit the use of Wi-Fi by non-essential personnel. Ban the use of any handheld, mobile, or cellular communications within the command post itself. Avoid placing Wi-Fi routers on the surface. If you absolutely need Wi-Fi, it has to be shielded and operated underground or deep inside a building.
And even the official military communication equipment needs to be physically separated from the headquarters.
Absolutely mandatory. Antenna separation.
Yeah.
Units must remotely emplace their antennas and radios hundreds of meters away from the actual command post, connected by long cables.
So if the enemy direction finds and ranges that strong radio signal, they're targeting an empty field, not the actual headquarters.
Or a decoy location, yes.
I found the warning about high-frequency radio stations particularly revealing about the speed of modern targeting.
This is a critical lesson.
Yeah.
High-frequency, or HF, radio stations are strongly discouraged. Their electromagnetic emissions create this easily recognizable high-power signature that can be direction found very quickly.
How quickly?
Using a high-power system can bring in enemy missile and artillery fire in less than 15 minutes from the time you transmit.
Yeah.
If you have to use one, it has to be on the lowest possible power, using terrain masking, and only for the most secure, transient bursts of communication. It's a huge risk.
Beyond minimizing their own signature, the command post has to actively mislead the enemy through sophisticated camouflage and deception. What level of ingenuity are we seeing here?
It's astounding. First, the unit has to do visual verification with its own drones. Units should fly their own observation platforms over their positions to see how well their camouflage actually works from a maximum height.
You have to see yourself through the eyes of the enemy.
You must. And then there's the use of decoys to draw the enemy's technological attention.
Like the radio signal emitters.
They use simple, low-power transmitters to imitate operational transmissions, tactically placed away from the real location to draw off electronic fire. And they use physical deception methods designed to look exactly like the technology the enemy is specifically hunting for.
Like the fake satellite dishes.
Exactly. Satellite communication dishes, especially Starlink, are highly sought-after targets. So units take oval-shaped objects like bucket lids, paint them white, and lay out visible cabling to imitate a Starlink terminal.
And they place these near a decoy command post location.
Right. The enemy uses visual or thermal recon to spot these high-value targets, and the decoys draw their expensive munitions. They also simulate vehicle parks by towing already destroyed or faulty vehicles to the decoy location and concentrated them to increase the perceived value of the false target.
And simulating a whole logistical hub, even if it's just empty trash.
It's deception at the highest level. They simulate the combat train's command post with empty boxes, fired rocket tubes, empty fuel cans. They cover them with nets, but they do it deliberately so it's still visible from above. The goal is to suggest a functional, vulnerable logistical hub that the enemy will waste time, ordnance, and intelligence assets on.
Finally, let's talk about command post displacement procedures. If mobility is survivability, the move itself is a moment of extreme vulnerability. The whole C2 system is temporarily offline.
And that displacement has to be covered by a detailed SOP because the transfer is so dangerous. The priorities of work for setting up a new command post are standardized to ensure you can rapidly resume functions, and they emphasize survival and communication over comfort or full systems integration.
So what are the absolute first priorities when you arrive at a new location?
Priority 1 is to clear the site and establish local security. You have to make sure the location is safe before anyone even starts unpacking. Priorities 2 and 3 are to occupy the site and establish basic tactical voice communications, the absolute minimum C2 required.
And it's not until priority 4 that the staff actually emplaces the physical infrastructure.
Right. Tents, vehicles, generators. And the high-tech systems are surprisingly far down the list.
They are.
It's not until priority 8 that the staff emplaces and installs the networking and data equipment. The lesson is that physical survival and basic comms links are prioritized over the full high-bandwidth capability.
And the very last priority listed, priority 11, is to improve defensive positions.
Which shows that the division has to be prepared to move again before the defenses are even solidified. The fundamental lesson is you have to be prepared to operate, defend, and move continuously, or you simply will not survive this integrated threat.
This deep dive has really highlighted a crucial and an often contradictory dynamic for modern military operations. The effectiveness of a division command post relies on this robust internal organization, the precise, almost bureaucratic coordination of cells, and a strict battle rhythm.
But its very existence is now completely dependent on external factors: extreme discipline, dispersion, and redundancy.
That tension is the defining characteristic of mission command in the 21st century. The organization is caught between the need for centralized analysis, which requires concentrating your experts,
And the necessity of dispersion for survivability, which requires isolation. The fight for mission command is now, fundamentally, a fight for concealment, mobility, and redundancy. It's balancing coordination needs with the absolute necessity of minimizing your electronic and physical signature.
The lessons from contemporary conflicts really underscore that Doctrine provides the framework.
But discipline and ingenuity, like using a decoy Starlink dish, provide the protection.
And as the Army embraces this new structure, especially the use of the home station command post that relies on virtual collaboration across vast distances for long-range planning, it fundamentally changes the definition of the headquarters itself.
It really does. It transforms the definition of a headquarters from a single, fixed physical location to a highly distributed, geographically separated network.
Which raises an important question for you to think about.
This reliance on virtual planning centers, operating safely back in garrison. How will this necessary reliance on remote technology and virtual staff, which removes the planners from the smell of the battlefield, how will that affect the delicate balance between the art of command, which so often requires personal presence and observation, and the science of control in future large-scale ground combat operations?